I had always been drawn to the thrill of the unknown, which is probably why I ended up booking a night at a remote hostel deep in the mountains. The reviews online were sparse, most of them vague mentions of weird noises and unexplained shadows, but I brushed them off as the usual overdramatic travel tales. The place was called Raven's Rest, and getting there meant a long, winding road through thick forest. By the time I arrived, night had already fallen, and a dense fog clung to the trees like a living thing. The hostel itself looked like it had been abandoned for years. The paint on the walls was peeling, and the wooden sign creaked ominously in the wind. I pushed open the heavy door, which protested with a loud groan, and stepped into a dimly lit foyer. A musty smell hit me immediately, a mix of damp wood, mold, and something faintly metallic like blood. The receptionist, or what I assumed was the receptionist, was nowhere to be seen. I called out, but only my voice echoed back at me. After fumbling through the lobby, I found a spiral staircase leading to the rooms upstairs. The hallway was narrow, and every step I took on the creaking floorboards sounded unnaturally loud. The walls were lined with old portraits, each figure staring at me with lifeless eyes. My room was at the very end, number 13, a detail that made me smirk nervously. The door was unlocked, as if inviting me in. Inside, the air was cold, far colder than the mountain air outside. The single bulb overhead flickered weakly, casting long, twitching shadows across the walls. I dropped my backpack on the floor and turned to inspect the room. Everything was old, from the threadbare sheets to the cracked mirror above the sink. I noticed a faint smell of incense, sharp and cloying, lingering in the corners. Then I heard it, a soft, almost imperceptible whisper. I froze. It sounded like someone was calling my name, barely audible, almost underneath my own heartbeat. "Hello," I called, my voice shaking slightly. Silence. I told myself it was just the wind, or maybe my imagination running wild. I set up my camera to document the stay for my travel vlog, thinking it would be fun to capture this spooky ambience. But as soon as I hit record, the room seemed to shift. The shadows grew darker, stretching along the floor and walls in ways that didn't make sense. The whispering returned, closer this time, circling around me like a predator playing with its prey. I tried to leave the room, but the door slammed shut before I could reach it. My hand shook as I jiggled the handle, and then I heard footsteps in the hallway outside, slow, deliberate pacing back and forth. Whoever, or whatever, was out there knew I was alone. I ran to the window and looked out, hoping for a glimpse of someone I could call for help. But the fog was thick, and the forest outside looked endless, like it had swallowed the world. And then I saw it, a figure barely visible through the mist, standing perfectly still at the edge of the tree line. Its head tilted unnaturally, and its eyes, or what I think were eyes, glowed faintly red. It didn't move, but I could feel it staring straight at me. My camera captured it, though in the playback later, the footage made no sense, like static and shadows bleeding into each other. I backed away, tripping over the bed, heart hammering, when the whispering turned into a clear, guttural voice. "Stay with us." I don't know how long I stood frozen in that room, staring at the foggy darkness outside, but every second felt like an eternity. The voice, low and hollow, repeated itself, "Stay with us," over and over, growing louder, more insistent. like it was feeding off my fear. My hands shook so badly I could barely hold my camera, yet I instinctively started recording everything, hoping to catch proof of what I was experiencing. Then, suddenly, the room went dead silent. No wind, no creaking boards, no whispers, just a heavy, suffocating stillness. And that's when I noticed the mirror. At first, I thought it was just my reflection, but as I stared, my reflection started moving on its own. My mirrored self grinned, a wide, unnatural grin that I wasn't making. Its eyes were darker than my own, and it tilted its head the same way the figure outside the window had. My stomach dropped. I stumbled backward, and the mirror cracked with a sharp, echoing pop, spiderwebbing across its surface. The reflection didn't shatter. It kept grinning. Then I heard the footsteps again, only this time they were inside the room. Slow, deliberate, circling me. I spun around, but the room was empty. My door was still shut, my window still fogged and empty, and yet I could feel something breathing in the corners. I tried to call for help, dialing the hostel's number on my phone, but there was no signal, nothing. It was as if the entire area had been swallowed from the world. I dropped my phone in frustration, and it slid across the floor, stopping at the base of the bed. That's when the shadows started moving. Not like normal shadows cast by light. They twisted and writhed independently, climbing the walls and ceiling, forming shapes that were almost human. One shape detached itself from the rest. It moved toward me, limbs bending in ways no human body could, fingers stretching unnaturally long. And its face, oh God, its face was entirely blank. No eyes, no mouth, just smooth, pale skin. Yet I knew it could see me. It reached out slowly, deliberately, like it was savoring the moment before contact. I tried to scream, but nothing came out. My body felt frozen, paralyzed with terror. Then, a sound, like nails scratching across wood, filled the room. The portraits in the hallway outside started banging against the walls, as if something was trying to escape from them. A cold wind blew through, carrying a smell of decay so strong I gagged. The figure moved closer, and just as it raised a hand toward me, the camera in my trembling grip fell to the floor, hitting the record button with a click. That's when everything got worse. The walls of the room seemed to breathe, contracting and expanding like lungs. The shadows on the walls started whispering my name in unison, hundreds of voices layered on top of each other. My reflection in the cracked mirror screamed, though no sound came from it. And then the door, finally, blew open with such force that it slammed against the wall, and I stumbled into the hallway. I ran without thinking down the spiral staircase, the shadows following me, reaching for my ankles, scraping against my skin. I could hear something heavy behind me, breathing, chasing. I burst into the lobby, but it was different, wrong. The ceiling was lower. The furniture twisted, warped into shapes I couldn't describe. And on the front desk was a book, open, with words written in what looked like blood. You cannot leave. I realized then that the hostel wasn't just haunted, it was alive. It fed on fear, trapping its guests inside its walls. And I had become its next victim. I stumbled through the warped lobby, heart hammering, sweat, and cold mingling on my skin. The air was thick, heavy, as if the walls themselves were pressing in on me. I tried to leave through the front door, but it wasn't there. Where the entrance had been was now a wall, smooth and unbroken. Panic clawed at me as I realized the hostel had changed. It wasn't just haunted, it was alive, shifting around me like a maze designed to trap me forever. I ran down a hallway that hadn't been there before. Doors lined both sides, each one slightly ajar, and behind them I glimpsed impossible things. Shadows crawling on ceilings, figures with faces melting like wax, hands stretching through the cracks of the doors to grab me. I heard screaming my own, or someone else trapped in this nightmare. I couldn't tell. Then I saw it, the figure from outside, the one with the red eyes. It wasn't human. Its body flickered like it existed in and out of reality, and it was smiling. Slowly, deliberately, it raised its arm and pointed at me. Behind it, the walls seemed to ripple, showing glimpses of other rooms. Rooms filled with people or shadows of people, screaming silently, clawing at the walls as if they were trying to escape the hostel too. I ran into a room and slammed the door, pressing my back against it. The mirror inside reflected them. Hundreds of shadowy figures, all looking at me. And the reflection of my own face twisted into something grotesque. My eyes hollow, my mouth stretched into a scream that had no sound. I realized then that the hostel didn't just trap you, it consumed you, erasing who you were and replacing you with fear itself. A whisper filled the room, louder than before. Join us. The shadows surged forward, flooding the floor like smoke, wrapping around my legs, climbing my body. I tried to fight, but my strength drained instantly, my limbs growing heavy, unresponsive. The walls began to close in, the ceiling dropping, the floor tilting, as if the hostel wanted me pressed into submission. In a last desperate act, I grabbed the camera from the floor and pointed it at the mirror, hoping to capture something, anything, to prove what was happening. The lens caught the reflection of the figure with red eyes, then another me standing behind it, smiling. My blood ran cold. The whispering grew into a chorus of laughter, mocking, inhuman, surrounding me from all sides. Everything went black. When I woke up, I was outside the hostel, lying in the cold fog of the forest. The building was gone. No sign it had ever existed, just an empty clearing. My camera lay beside me, smashed, but the memory card was intact. I played it back in disbelief. The footage showed me entering the hostel, but then the camera fell, and what it recorded after that was impossible. Shadows moving, whispers forming words I couldn't comprehend, and a figure standing over me. The same figure from the window, smiling. And then, at the very end, written across the screen in deep crimson letters, "You stayed forever." I never speak of that night to anyone. I can't explain what happened, and sometimes I think I don't want to. But sometimes late at night, I see shadows moving in the corner of my room, and I hear a faint whisper calling my name. I know the hostel is still out there, waiting, and maybe, just maybe, it's coming for me again.